So while the film is called The Batman, Selena's story is such an integral part of the movie. She gets fleshed out, she has her agency and all of that. So how important was it to you that Selena have such a big part in this movie, essentially the co-lead of the movie?
I mean, it was the way the script was written, you know. I think I would have still been excited to play the part if she had one scene, you know. It's, she's such a wonderful character. But, I was very lucky that Matt was really interested in exploring Selena Kyle as a human being. And I think, she's a very important part of Batman's story and, his arc and his growth. And, yeah, it's a really special thing to be able to explore Catwoman before she is Catwoman. I think a lot of people are expecting Catwoman. They're gonna get Selena, and getting that time with her is really special and exciting.
Yeah. And Robert, for you, were you intrigued by the fact that while this isn't a true origin story, it does set up a lot of things. You get to meet these characters early on, like not at the very, very beginning, but it's not from scratch. So did that intrigue you when you were thinking about your portrayal of Batman?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting to start with a character he thinks he knows who he is at the beginning of, and he thinks he knows what he's doing at the beginning of the story, and then throughout a movie he realizes he doesn't really know what he's doing at all, and kind of has to rebuild. If you've made the decision to be Batman in your life, it's a pretty big commitment, and then to suddenly realize throughout the course of a week where a story is set that you have to reevaluate your entire reality by the end of it. It was a really interesting way of starting a new version of the story, and it's very kind of bold and brave of Matt as well.
And for both of you, what did you enjoy the most about this dynamic between, Bruce and Selena in this movie? They're kind of like, they have this kind of like, cat and mouse type thing, but they're also, working together. It's a lot of different dynamics and facets of their partnership and their relationship. So what did you both most like about this partnership?
Well, it's so complex, and it's that's a delightful thing to have to play, and I think it really is, what relationships are like. They're all the things all at once, and I think it's really interesting to watch two characters challenge each other the way that we do.
Yeah, there's an equality to it as well, to the relationship, where it's kind of, it's not like Batman is the one who's totally in control of the narrative. I mean, it's kind of, he's really needs something from, he doesn't exactly know what it is, but he needs something from Selena, and it's interesting for him to find out what it is.
Yeah, so thank you both so much, and I can't wait for everyone to see this movie. Enjoy the rest of your day. So, Colin, I'll start with you first. You probably have one of the most dramatic transformations that I've seen probably in film into your role for the Penguin. So, what's something that you think fans may be surprised about the process that it took you to transform it not only physically but figuratively into this character?
What would they be surprised about? I don't know what surprises people anymore. I don't know that they'll be too surprised. I think the makeup when I saw it for the first time, and I mean, I've been privy to certain makeups that I've seen in other actors and behind the scenes things for years, and going all the way back to, was John Landis when he did the Thriller video with Michael Jackson. I remember a making of that when I was a child and just being astonished at the transformation from Michael Jackson into the werewolf in that. But it was phenomenal for me to see the brilliance and the creativity and the imagination of Mike Marino, in that he created this whole visage, this whole face, and thereby this whole character that I was then given the permission to inhabit. It was 4 hours in the morning. We got it down to 2 hours by the end of the shoot. They were shaving off minutes every day. But just the brilliance of Mike Marino. I mean, I really continually just take my hat off to him and what he created, and again how his imagination sparked my imagination, and that's the way it works. That's the way it works in this job. The wardrobe, the drawings, and the design that the wardrobe department and the wardrobe designer may have sparks your imagination, gives you information into your character. Obviously, the writing is the fundamental place that you start. All the actors you're working with and how you interact with them. There's bits of information to be garnered from everywhere, but I've never been given, like, plugged into the source, I don't think, before the way I was when I instantly saw what Mike Marino had done. So that was just a really profound thing for me.
And Don, for you, Carmine is one of the, most notable, I guess, crime bosses, crime lords in DC Comics lore. I wanted to know, did you have any specific other cinematic reference points that you wanted to channel when thinking about this character, or did you kind of want to conceive something fully new when you thought about your portrayal?
No, Matt was interested in the Frank Miller comics, Year One and The Last Halloween, which was influenced by The Godfather. It's very, very obvious, and the book of it. And that was also influenced by real life figures. So I kind of went back to that and, played with Matt and talked about, should he be disfigured, and would he have these kind of glasses that no one could see his eyes? He's the sort of the guy behind the curtain, and he's outlasted everyone, and the whole idea of a predator. I think there's lots of people to look at, people who run countries. Big businessmen and crime bosses, they do have certain things in common, and they know how to take advantage of people and have them indebted to them. So I kind of, did that, and I worked with Naomi Dunn, who was the head makeup artist, and Naomi was the person who recommended to hire Mike, actually. It was her idea to bring him in, and she's a brilliant person herself. So as Colin said, it's a collaborative effort, and of course working with Matt, who was really, really open, and he had done so much homework, but he loved to be surprised by things that all the actors came up with.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for your time. I can't wait for everyone to see this movie. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
So, Jeffrey, first of all, I'll start with you. How do you think the Commissioner Gordon that we see here is kind of different than the way he's been portrayed in previous series and previous films?
Well, I think he's different because he's not commissioner just yet. He's lieutenant, so he's still, a cop. In the middle of things, a cop on the street, which allows him to get his hands dirty, and it allows for this partnership with the Batman that I don't think we've seen quite fleshed out before the way it is in our film. Our film is it's a psychological film. It's an emotional film. It's focused on, in some ways, the origins of Batman being the world's greatest detective. So that's what Matt's vision was. So it really gives an opportunity for Gordon to be activated in a way that he hasn't necessarily in previous films. And this partnership is kind of critical to driving us through the narrative toward the Riddler and his mischief. So, I think the difference is there, and the difference was on the page as Matt wrote it. And I thought it was wonderful. Why I wanted to be a part of it.
Yes, yes. And Paul, for you, most of the Riddler scenes are just so unnerving. Like, I feel like I was on the edge of my seat anytime the character came on screen. What was it like getting in the mindset to portray a character like this?
It was a challenge. I mean, what Matt put before us was both awesome and inspiring, but also super challenging, which I think is maybe part of the fun, is that hill to climb and how to do this Riddler. The thing that Matt and I talked about in our very first conversation was how Batman is born of trauma from his parents' death, and maybe in this film, maybe so is the Riddler. And so that was really the seed from which I think the rest of the character grew.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for chatting with me. I'm hoping that I can see you both sometime soon in this universe of films. Hope we can get some more. But thanks so much for chatting with me.